Hello, my name is Aerobic. Today we are looking at the topic cellular respiration. Now, objectives of lesson. By the end of the lesson, students should be able to 1. Define the term respiration. 2. Mention the two types of respiration. 3. Define glycolysis. 4. Define fermentation. 5. Give at least 3 similarities between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. And 6. Give at least 3 differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So what is respiration? Respiration is the process by which glucose or digested food is broken down in the presence or absence of oxygen to release energy. Now, the definition of respiration is far beyond what most students would define it as. Normally, they will say respiration is the breathing in of oxygen and the breathing out of carbon dioxide. This is not that correct because respiration is far beyond that processes. So for your examination, to define respiration, simply say respiration is the process by which glucose or digested food is broken down in the presence or absence of oxygen to release energy. When we take in food, the carbohydrate in our food is digested into glucose. Now this glucose enters into the cell, and in the cytoplasm or the mitochondrion of the cell, the glucose there is broken down into energy. Now, the energy occurs in the form of ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Now, the essence or end product of respiration is the energy. That means at the end of respiration, what we stand to gain is energy. Now, energy is needed for work done. Without energy, an organism will not be able to move from one place to another or carry out all other body metabolism such as digestion, reproduction, and others in the body. Now, this is an equation representing respiration process. Here we have glucose and we have oxygen. Now, the oxygen is needed to break the glucose, and at the end, 3 different products are formed. The first one, we have carbon dioxide, we also have water, and we also have the energy we are talking about, also called ATP. So glycolysis. What is glycolysis? This is the process involving a series of reactions by which glucose is broken down into a 3-carbon compound called pyruvic acid. Right? Now, when glucose is broken down, it must first of all pass through the stage of glycolysis. That means it must first be broken into a 3-carbon compound called pyruvic acid. It is after this that the glucose or the compound known as pyruvic acid will either go through aerobic respiration or anaerobic respiration. Now, glycolysis takes place inside the cytoplasm of every living cell. It is the first stage of respiration. Okay, it takes place in the absence of oxygen. Oxygen is not required for glycolysis to take place. The pyruvic acid in the presence of oxygen, like I said, can carry out aerobic respiration, or in the absence of oxygen, it can carry out anaerobic respiration. So that leads us to the types of respiration. We have 1 here, aerobic respiration. 2, we have anaerobic respiration. So let's discuss this type of respiration one after the other, and we're going to be starting with aerobic respiration. Now, aerobic respiration is the type of respiration in which glucose is broken down in the presence of oxygen to release energy. Our major focus here is in the presence of oxygen. Now, in aerobic respiration, after glycolysis, the pyruvic acid in the presence of oxygen we combine with what we call acetyl enzyme A to enter into a series of reactions known as the Krebs cycle or the citric cycle, and at the end, the energy we are talking about is produced. Now, in aerobic respiration, large amount of energy is released, that is 36 ATP, quite large. Now, carbon dioxide and water are the byproducts formed at the end of aerobic respiration. When we say byproduct, these are materials that are useless to the organism. They are not needed for any metabolism in the body of an organism. It's quite different from when you say end product. End product are useful material. So that means energy is a useful material from aerobic respiration, while the byproduct or not useful materials are the carbon dioxide and the water. Alright, here we have an image showing glucose food, or food that are rich in glucose. Right now, in the presence of oxygen, this glucose will be broken down. You can see that the arrow shows that the glucose and the oxygen are going into the body of organisms. Right now, at the end of the process, water, carbon dioxide and energy will be released from the body of these organisms. Take your time and study the image. Alright, number 2 is anaerobic respiration. Now, anaerobic respiration is a type of respiration in which glucose is broken down in the absence of oxygen to release energy. So our main focus here is absence of oxygen. Oxygen is not required, okay, for the process of anaerobic respiration. In anaerobic respiration, after glycolysis, don't forget I said that earlier, that the pyruvic acid formed during glycolysis in the absence of oxygen is further broken down into what we call alcohol in plant cells and lactic acid in animal cells to produce energy. That is, the pyruvic acid, okay, in the absence of oxygen, for a plant cell, what will be formed will be what? Carbon. It will be carbon dioxide, water and alcohol. Now, for an animal cell, what will be formed will include carbon dioxide, water and lactic acid. Now, in anaerobic respiration, lesser amount of energy is actually formed to ATP. That is very, very small. Now, carbon dioxide, alcohol are the byproduct formed at the end of anaerobic respiration. Now, that is for plant cells. Okay, carbon dioxide, lactic acid are going to be the byproduct formed for animal cells. Okay, all right. So let's look at the word fermentation. Now, fermentation is the process by which liquid glucose or sugar is broken down in the absence of oxygen and the presence of yeast or microorganisms to release alcohol and energy. Now, fermentation can occur when sugary substances, okay, are exposed to microorganisms and they carry out anaerobic processes, okay, that means in the absence of oxygen. All right, and alcohol and energy are formed from the process. Now look at the equation here. We have glucose. Now there's no oxygen, so oxygen is not required for the process of fermentation, but the glucose will be exposed to certain microorganisms, and after a while what will be formed will be what? Alcohol, carbon dioxide and ATP. Don't forget that ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, and that is the form in which energy exists in the body of organisms. Now, fermentation process is used in the brewery industries for the production of alcohol or ethanol. Okay, now yeast and certain bacteria are used because they can convert glucose to alcohol, and at the end of the process they can release carbon dioxide compound. Okay, so in the brewery industry what they do is that they exposed sugary substances, all right, to certain bacteria, fungi like yeast, all right, and then they make sure that the process passes through anaerobic respiration, and at the end the sugary substances begin to turn into what we call alcohol, and that is what is used in making some beers and alcoholic drink around. All right, okay, let's look at similarities between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Number one is that both processes release energy. So at the end of both aerobic and anaerobic respiration, energy is produced. And don't forget that energy is our end product. It is the useful materials produced in the body. Number two, the processes both take place in living cells. So both plants and animals can carry out aerobic respiration. 3. Heat is generated and released in both processes. Then number 4, carbon dioxide is released in both processes. Okay, let's discuss the differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Here we have aerobic respiration, and on the other side we have anaerobic respiration. Now, number 1, in aerobic respiration, it occurs in the presence of oxygen. That is quite easy to easily mention. While under anaerobic respiration, it occurs in the absence of oxygen. Number 2, under aerobic respiration, it occurs in the mitochondria of cells. Alright, while anaerobic respiration, it occurs in the cytoplasm of cells. Then under aerobic respiration, number 3, large amount of energy is produced, while anaerobic respiration, less amount of energy is produced. Then number 4, carbon dioxide and water are byproducts that are formed, while the major byproducts in anaerobic respiration, of course, apart from carbon dioxide, are alcohol or lactic acid, based on the organisms involved. That means for alcohol, don't forget, that one will be seen in plant cells, while for lactic acid, that will be found in animal cells. Alright, we are through with our lesson. Very short, quite short, yes. Alright, these are students' activities. All you need to do is go through the question, take your time and answer the question. If there's anyone giving you a challenge, all you need to do is go back to the lesson, listen to it once again, watch the video, and I believe you'll be able to attempt them all. Alright. Okay, these are our students' activities. Now it's time for you to mark yourself. I hope you have 100% at the end of the marking. So at this time I'll say thank you for joining me in this class. Thank you for learning today. Have a wonderful time.